Hello everybody, my name's Eden Zoller, Chief Analyst with Omdia, and I'd like to welcome you all to this webinar looking at how AI is transforming TV and video, co-sponsored by Omdia and Comcast Technology Solutions. Before we get started, I've got a couple of housekeeping points to go through, wouldn't take me long. So at the bottom of your audience console are a bunch of application widgets. Check them out as they're pretty useful. In the resource list widget, you'll find a copy of today's slides and other resources available for download. If you have any questions, you can submit them through the Q&A widget, and all questions are saved. So if we can't get to your question during the session, we'll try and follow up via email. An on-demand version of the webinar should be available in a day or two, and that can be accessed on the same audience link that was sent out earlier. And then finally, if you have any technical difficulties, I'm sure you won't, just click on the help widget. So that's it for the housekeeping, and I'd now like to extend a warm welcome to the rest of the panel. And so a big welcome to Paul Clausen, Senior Director, Product Strategy and Management for Comcast Technology Solutions, Megan Mork, SVP with Media Operations for NBC Universal, Faisal Ishtiaq, Senior Director, Media Analytics and AI Platforms with Comcast. So what I'm going to do before I hand over to the panel is just spend about 10 minutes providing a bit of context, setting the scene, if you like, the big picture for AI impacts on TV and video. I think there can be a tendency to think about AI in terms of how it affects discrete elements of TV and video. For example, we often focus on recommendations, and there's no doubt that AI is making recommendations more contextually relevant. But AI extends well beyond this. It's having an impact on pretty much every aspect of TV and video, from data intelligence, content compliance, how TV and video content is produced and delivered, security relating to video content, how users engage with TV and video, and also monetization opportunities, current and future. Now, I know I've broken the sort of cardinal rule of PowerPoint with a very busy slide, but I wanted to give you a sense of how expansive AI impacts are, and also something for you to take away and think about, because sadly, we don't have time to go through every single point here, much as I would like to. So that's it for the big picture. And what I want to do now is just dip into two areas that I think are personally very interesting. And that's how AI is enabling new types of interface for TV and video, and also how AI is enabling adaptive video and content narratives. So let's start with new forms of interaction. I think you can sort of look at the voice interface as the sort of first wave of this new form of interface and interactivity. And it's one that consumers seem to like and be using more. And you can see that from the chart on your far left, and that's from our latest consumer AI survey, carried out in China, the US and the UK, among just over 3,000 consumers. But AI is also an important enabler for other types of touch-free interactions. So what I've got here is gesture control and eye tracking as an interface. And I've summarized sort of roughly how gesture control works in the sort of middle diagram. And when it comes to sort of eye tracking as an interface, it's basically people using eye tracking, eye movements to execute commands. And with eye tracking and gesture control, these are niche applications, but then many applications that start as niche pave the way for broader innovation, and that's kind of what we've seen with the voice interface. Moreover, all these type of interface, they increase a accessibility to video and TV and inclusiveness, and that's really important. Another area that I find really interesting is how AI is helping with sort of adaptive media narratives. And part of this is sort of allowing viewers to sort of tailor and steer plot narratives. And it can be a really powerful form of personalization and interaction. And I've got a couple of examples here. So Netflix has experimented with sort of user-driven branching narratives on quite a few of its programs. But I think probably the best one, or the best known one, is Black Mirror, the Bandersnatch episode. And basically Bandersnatch allows the viewers to select between a range of different actions for the main character, and it's the slightly sort of confused looking lad on the bottom image. You know, some of these actions are quite trivial, some of them are quite serious, and they're sort of triggered at different points in the narrative, and depending on what the audience chooses, they send the narratives in sort of multiple different directions. And Netflix is not the only one to do this. The BBC in the UK is doing something similar, and that still there is from its 1000th edition of the Click technology programme. So with the branching storylines in Bandersnatch, it's not sort of auto-generated by AI, but a team of very talented sort of script writers and producers. But where our AI is helping is by sort of managing content assets and automating workflows. So, for example, metadata tagging is used to locate where in the video to trigger these decision tree functions and to sort of automatically upload the corresponding video content. There's also quite a lot of interest around object-based media production. And again, I've tried to sort of summarize roughly how that works in that little chart. But the basic idea is to allow programs to be flexed and changed according to the requirement of different audience segments. So I'm going to try and describe this as simply as I can. But basically, you break down original content into a collection of separate content objects that are labeled using automagging. These are content objects. They can sort of be large pieces like a whole scene, or they can be quite small objects like an individual video frame. And they're sort of reassembled into narratives or information formats aligned with different audience preferences and rendered to suit different viewing devices. So it's a very interesting idea in terms of sort of enabling flexible forms of media production, personalization and interactivity, but it is still very nascent. So I'm now going to sort of change gears a bit and look at things from an industry and a consumer perspective. So let's start off with the sort of industry view, if you like. And these two charts, they're kind of a snapshot of you know, where and which verticals are investing in AI software, and also how AI is living up to expectations. So the chart on the left is from our own AI software market forecasts, and this predicts direct revenues from AI solutions, but also indirect revenues where AI solutions are improving the performance of an existing product or service. So with media and entertainment, it's actually got quite a specific focus. It's primarily around production and delivery solutions. And it's, you know, it's somewhere in the middle, you know, glass half full, glass empty. But I think you can sort of reasonably include advertising and consumer-facing services, so things like personalization, you know, voice assistance, the voice interface, into that mix. And if you take these three verticals together, then the outlook is looking pretty punchy. So by 2027, you know, the software revenues are sort of, I think they're just topping about 30 billion. So that's not bad. In terms of expectations, is AI living up to the expectations across various verticals? actually, for media and entertainment, it's looking pretty good. The executives are pretty happy, with 54% of them saying that AI is exceeding expectations, and another 5% saying it's far exceeding expectations, which is really pretty good going. So how about consumers? What do they think about all this? Well, I guess the good news is that consumers are warming to AI features in TV and video. And again, these are findings from the consumer survey I referred to earlier. So there's a strong desire for kind of quite practical stuff. So, how AI can be used to improve the quality of video streaming. So you can see there's a high priority on automatic bandwidth optimization, image upscaling, and related to this, dynamic sound and image adjustment. People are very interested in the voice interface to control TV, and we talked about that a little bit earlier. There's also good interest around sort of enhanced parental controls, and there's some quite significant developments in this area around sort of facial recognition to authenticate who's watching certain content items, in this case children. So consumers, by and large, they're warming to AI services and features for TV and video. But before we get too confident and too comfortable, I just wanted to sort of wrap up by sort of stressing that there is still a lot of room for improvement. There's still work to be done. And this is another finding from that sort of AI enterprise market maturity survey I sort of showed you earlier. And this is looking at the sort of some of the major barriers to AI adoption across, again, those wide range of verticals. And they're pretty steep. There are issues around the sort of complexity of AI. There's problems with either lack of data and or the quality of data. There's concerns about compliance, about regulatory issues. And something I personally find quite worrying, there's sort of a perception that there aren't enough compelling use cases. So a lot of work to be done when it comes to getting buy-in from enterprise and industry. And what about consumers? Lots of issues there. I'm just looking at two areas, which is around the sort of the user experience of AI services and trust or lack of it of AI services. And the chart on the left-hand side is, again, from our consumer AI survey. And it's about sort of, why people give their sort of voice assistants a rubbish ranking. And these are the reasons why. And a lot of them relate to the user experience of the voice interface. So the assistant, it doesn't understand people. It doesn't recognize who's talking. So it gets commands wrong, which are pretty fundamental flaws. There's problems around security in terms of data privacy, in terms of transactional security. So there's quite a lot of things that need to improve and be addressed. And the chart on the right is, as I said, all about trust or lack of it. So who do consumers trust most to provide secure and reliable AI services? And as you can see, outside of personal device manufacturers and consumer tech companies, and they can often be one and the same, trust is actually not brilliant across the board, and it's extremely low for some players. And, at the end of the day, if people don't trust your AI credentials, they're not going to adopt or use your AI services. And that should be a pretty sharp wake-up call for all AI stakeholders. And the other thing that I'd really like to stress is that a big part of consumer trust rests on responsible AI, ethical AI, which all stakeholders should embrace as a priority. So that wraps up my sort of big picture overview of some of the developments in AI, some of the issues. You can't escape those. And so what I'm going to do now is hand over to our panel members who are going to share sort of some of their experiences, the technologies they're using, use cases and applications. So Paul, I think, are you going to kick us off?
Yes, thank you, Eden. So I'm Paul Clausen. I am a product manager for Comcast Technology Solutions. Comcast Technology Solutions is a subsidiary of Comcast. Our mission in this business is to connect Comcast technologies to the world. We're a global company. We provide suites of tools and services that help to do everything from taking content from acquisition to putting it in front of subscribers. And I'm going to talk today about Video AI, which is a new solution that we announced earlier this year, which really fills the mission of CTS, which is taking great in-house tech that we've developed and making it available around the world to customers outside of the Comcast umbrella. And with Video AI, one of my colleagues on the panel is going to talk a little bit later about the tech that's the foundation of Video AI. But what Video AI is really all about is automating the providing actionable metadata that drives great experience and connecting users with the content that they love, engaging in monetizing content at scale and in production. So there's, this technology, Comcast has been investing in AI and ML for a very long period of time. A lot of the early investment went into building a better, more resilient network, which paid off handsomely during the pandemic. As work from home and data rates went through the roof, we were able to raise our data rates and quality of service simultaneously. But about 8 years ago, we enhanced the mission of our group, our technology team that was working on AI and ML, to include learning more about what's going on inside of video. And we wanted to apply what we could learn about what's going on inside video to a variety of different problem domains. And so we've done that internally within Comcast, Sky, NBC, and what we do within Comcast Technology Solutions to improve our business outcomes in a number of different ways. And now what we're doing with Video AI is taking that foundation that's been developed over a number of years, making it available as a SaaS. And we have focused our offerings around solving some fundamental challenges that our content owner and streaming provider customers share. The first one is really around connecting users with content they love, and typical business outcomes that we'd like to see with that are converting free trials to paid subscriptions, for example. So a subscriber may have subscribed to a service to get an exclusive piece of content that might only be available on one service. And so part of the mission of keeping that subscriber is to connect them with the second or third or fourth piece of content that's in the catalog or the archive. Increasing viewing time, numbers of hours watched, minutes watched, assets watched per month, reducing churn. Those are typical business outcomes that we're spending a lot of time thinking about. How can we impact those business outcomes through a data-driven approach and providing actionable metadata that can improve search, discovery, recommendations that keep customers engaging with content that is compelling to them. So that's the first challenge, is really connecting users. The second challenge that we've been spending a lot of time on is providing actionable metadata that improves the user experience, engaging users in compelling user experiences that are sticky, and which empower the subscriber to consume entertainment or content on their terms. Watching what they want to watch, when they want to watch it, and being able to navigate through the entertainment experience on their terms, under their control, is really a very compelling, empowering experience for subscribers that we think tends to increase customer satisfaction. And if you do a really, really good job of number one and number two, connecting and engaging, the outcome should be more minutes, more assets being watched, more impressions. And so you can whatever your advertising rate, if you're in a hybrid or advertising model, whatever your rate is that you're selling impressions at, hopefully there's more of them to sell. But that by itself is not good enough. We'd also like to be able to sell those impressions at value or at a premium, hopefully, and uplift ad sales by offering services like making sure that, first of all, where should ads go if there aren't markings in content that say where ads should be dynamically inserted. We want to be able to apply AI and ML to say, here's the best places to insert ads. If there's ads that are, if there are already ad markings, we want to know where those ad pods begin and end if we don't have appropriate markings that tell us that. But we'd also like to do things like brand safety and brand diversion. Make sure that there's appropriate content being inserted in an ad pod. So brand, also contextual advertising is a key focus area for us, is looking at things at a scene or segment level, and when the next ad pod comes, what are the best ads in our inventory to be able to place into that ad pod. And hopefully advertisers will be willing to pay some premium value for that. So, and we need to be able to do 1, 2, and 3, connect, engage, and monetize at scale and in production. And so that's what the Video AI service is designed to do as a multi-tenanted SaaS, is provide content analysis that provides actionable metadata that can drive good business outcomes. So what are some of the applications that we are working on? As I mentioned, connecting involves content discovery, providing contextual discovery metadata that can be used by search engines and recommendation engines to provide better search, discovery, and recommendations. The hypothesis is that better data equals better recommendations. Content moderation, making sure that the content that is being shown is appropriate for for age groups. So you might have a child's persona that you're providing content for. So is the content that's being ingested and being suggested age appropriate? And then chaptering is finding segments of content. Could be news chaptering. I want to see the sports segments or the weather segment. In programs like Saturday Night Live, it could be skits. So those are some things we're doing to try to enhance connecting users with content they love. Experiences that we've had some work done on include finding where intros and credit rolls are in content so that we can enable binge watching and episodic content. Smart Resume, which enables customers on time-shifted content to be able to resume when they're using trick modes, resume at a fixed point. And Live to Highlights, which is primarily today on sport, but enabling users to consume and navigate a sporting event on their terms. For example, watching a golfer as they go through their round, and watch their shots. So it's better than a curated event of curated highlights, because the user is empowered to watch it on their terms. Very compelling, very sticky. And then there's the monetization piece. And I mentioned ad break detection, dynamic ad insertion, which finds ad points, contextual advertising, brand safety and diversion, and then logo placement. All right, I'm going to hand it over to Faisal Ishtiaq, who's going to tell you a little bit about the tech. Faisal.
Hello, I'm Faisal Ishtiaq. I'm Director of Machine Learning in Comcast, focusing on applying AI machine learning to media. And so it's a pleasure to be here today with you. As Eden mentioned and showed us in earlier graphic, AI and machine learning is being used in the media industry across a wide gamut, from all the way from creation to consumption and user experiences. So what we're going to do is take a look at exactly how that gets done and how are we and others enabling AI and machine learning in the entertainment and the media space. So as we know that there's been a lot of advancements in the computer vision field, audio signal analysis, natural language processing, machine learning, and more recently, deep learning. And those technologies combined over the past 2 decades have really transformed the way we understand what's happening inside of media, moment by moment, scene by scene, frame by frame. So when we look at things in trying to understand what's happening inside of the media, we know that some of the latest in computer vision and natural language processing, and again, deep learning and AI models can help us extract salient pieces of information that previously were not available to us. So for example, text detection. Understanding what text is on the screen. It helps us understand context. It helps us understand where we are in the video. It helps us understand what is actually being on the video. Things like logo detection. Now we've got libraries that can detect logos and understand where brands are being mentioned, where are they being shown. That is a level of information that is particularly important. Things such as scene segmentation and structure. These are a little bit more technical pieces of information from the video. So for example, what do we know that we're going from one shot to another, or one scene to another? Do we have a black frame, or do we have slugs in the video that are telling us, hey, something different is about to happen? Shot boundaries are rather important pieces of information for us. So what we're trying to understand is, what is that information telling us? And so those were technical pieces of information. AI and machine learning and deep learning particularly have evolved now to let us understand more of the nuanced aspects of a piece of content. So for example, concepts, speech, this is a female speaker, this is a monologue, there's applause in the content. Things such as location. By looking at this frame, traditional methods wouldn't have allowed us to say, oh, you know what, this is a gym or a fitness area. However, now by understanding and deep learning, we know that, hey, this is a gym area, this is a fitness model, or this is a fitness area and gym. And so these are information that start to build up a understanding, or a larger understanding of what's happening in the video at any given point in time. And of course, object detection, which Eden mentioned earlier, and that's a very classic example of, hey, this is a woman, there's a man, there's a dining table, there's a bowl. That just even the visual placement of that content. Not only do we understand what is on the screen, but now we know how, in reference to each other, they're placed on the screen. And what that allows us to do is to extract a lot of information. So in effect, think of all these things as signals. They're coming into us in various ways. We have different models that are coming into us that are telling us, hey, there's a man and a woman there. They're in a fitness area. There's the male speaking. There's this text on the screen. That all is information. And so that is what we call detectors. And so, things such as, who's on the screen, is there audio, what type of audio is it, is there a logo present? But that in itself is signals. And raw signals, they're important. However, when we start to fuse those signals together, when we start to combine signals in various ways, they can be very, very simple, rule-based algorithm. If man and woman in front of table, we can apply that. Or, we can start to apply more deeper understanding, statistical understanding, heuristics, domain-based machine learning, and again, AI and deep learning. And when we start to combine those signals, that is when the real magic happens. That's when we start to see a lot of information that previously was hidden to us now start to come to light. So for example, and that is what enables end user experiences. So for example, sports highlights. We are looking at all these multimodal analysis of video, audio, video, captions, subtitles, and starting to understand, hey, this is an important moment in the video, and this is an important moment in a sporting event. It could be smart advertising, for example, contextual signals, using emotions and sentiments in addition to, understanding and looking at just what's happening in the video. We can say, hey, you know what? There's a lot of positive sentiment around cars in this segment of video. So that's how we start to bring to light sort of the real value of AI. It is beyond the detectors. The detectors themselves are important. However, it's this combination and multimodal combination that really starts to bring value and really starts to highlight the value of AI and machine learning in the media industry. Again, as we talked, all the way from content creation, all the way to end user experiences. So how do we actually do it? Well, this is a representative flow of how actually it gets done. So we take video in. If it can be live video, it can be file-based video. It goes through the standard decoding process. And then it gets split out into its various modalities: audio, visual, closed captions, or subtitles, for example. And those themselves go through transformations. And they may be feature engineering, they may be features that we extract from each one of these modalities. These features then can lend themselves into detectors. So we apply more intelligent understanding of what's happening in the features. So for example, we may extract features from the visual that says, this is the scene layout. However, understanding how the differences in scene layout may occur, we'll tag it as a scene boundary. That scene boundary then is that detector output. And then understanding that along with a number of other detectors, as I showed in the earlier slide, those then start to form those signals. And depending on the application being deployed or application that we're hoping to realize, we can apply those detectors and those signals in various ways to extract what we call actual metadata, moment by moment, scene by scene, what's happening in the video, but also what is the business value that we're driving. So these are things that we have enabled, and again, as Paul mentioned in Video AI, those are things that are available through Video AI. Now, just in general, who's using Video AI today? We have a large set of use cases that we are enabling through Video AI across the Comcast ecosystem. Within Xfinity, we have a number of areas where we apply not just end user experiences, but also in the back end to increase how we analyze video and how we distribute video and how we track and monitor the quality of our video. In addition to Peacock, the Peacock Explorer function for EPL sports highlights, that's something that's available today, and that's being driven by Video AI and our sports experiences. Sky Sports is actively, and it's for the last 3 years, we have been deployed in Sky Sports. And if you're ever in the UK, or if you are in the UK or Germany, you can hit the red button during an EPL or Bundesliga match and see that experience live in action, where we're marking out all the highlights for EPL, Bundesliga, but also for F1. We're looking at overtakes and crashes and looking at all those various salient events, and also in NBC Universal. And we have Megan here who can talk a little bit about how she's using NBC Video AI within NBC. So with that, let me hand it over to Megan.
Thanks so much, Faisal. It's nice to be here with all of you today. So yes, I am very excited to talk through how we have partnered with both Paul, Faisal, and the Video AI team to implement some of the machine learning AI detectors within our media operations. And just for context, so I do run media operations for NBC Universal. So really what that means is all content processing and fulfillment on behalf of the company. So anytime you see any NBC Universal content on linear television, NBC, Telemundo, E, Bravo, Sci-Fi, and or on Peacock, and or any other third party, Hulu, iTunes, Amazon Prime, or your set-top box, Comcast, Dish, that comes through my team. We do all the ingest of all of our NBC Universal content and or any content that we acquire or license. We do a quality control pass to make sure that the video and audio are in good quality. And we're also adding in all the technical segmentation that enables digital ad insertion and or any type of binge watching that you'll see on Peacock or any other streaming device. My team also coordinates any localization of our content and all distribution and packaging inclusive of metadata and images. So I am really excited about the partnership that we've been able to build with the video AI team and software, as it has helped really drive productivity through my operations, as well as enable ad revenue for the company. So I'll talk through a few examples of how we've implemented the video AI solutions within our kind of content factory. So as Faisal mentioned, we've been in partnership in developing the detectors that are currently in the video AI software. And the first use case that we really partnered on was that technical segmentation. So when we launched Peacock 2 years ago, we had to actually go back into our content library and add certain time code segmentation to enable the binge watching. So if you go on and are watching Chicago Fire on Peacock, you'll notice that if you watch it serially, that there's the option to skip intro. Basically, that means you can skip the start credits or the recap of the previous episode. And if you're binge watching, you just saw that episode, so you don't need the recap. So what my team had to do is we actually had to go back in and manually add in a time code within the content library of the first frame of that start credit and the last frame of that start credit. And similarly on the end credits, we would mark up the first frame of video for the end credit and the start of the end credit and the end of the end credit, so that functionality would be enabled. We also worked in partnership with our Peacock team, and if you get the ad version of Peacock, which is free, we do ad insertion on the platform, but for the premium service on Peacock, there is no ad. So we had to ensure that it was a good experience for our premium paying customers, but also we had the capability to insert ads for the ad-free tier within Peacock. So basically we went through and made sure that we had ad break timings in the time code that we pass in the metadata downstream to the player, so that if you're watching with ads at certain time codes within the Chicago Fire episode that you're watching, we can insert ads during that time. But if you're a premium paying consumer, you won't experience that ad at that certain time code. So we actually had to do a lot of segmentation prior to launching Peacock. And what we've done with the video AI team is really fine tune those detectors to help automate that segmentation. So over the past few years, we've now been able to integrate within our MAM the detection of those ad breaks, as well as the start credits, the slate, the two-pop, the end credits. And today my operations is using that as an operator assist. So when they go in to add the segmentation, we've scanned everything through through video AI on ingest. And then my operators are just validating those time codes. So they're going to those specific time codes and ensuring it's at the right placement. And this was really tricky to automate because with video, it has to be frame accurate. And I will say with previous AI software, we really had a hard time if they weren't in the media industry to understand frame rate and time codes. And that's what's been great about the partnership with the video AI team. Obviously, it's a part of Comcast. Oh, sorry, that's my puppy. But they're part of Comcast, and they have a lot of media experience. So it was a really great partnership. And I will say it's really tricky too, because when you're listening to video, a lot of times it will go to black, and there's there's audio that goes into that break. So we had to make sure that the ad timings were accounting for those audio, the audio going into those breaks. So that's been a very good success, and we've been able to drive a lot of productivity within my operations. The second use case that I wanted to walk through was in partnership with our ad sales operation. They came to us because with Peacock, they wanted to increase the ad revenue opportunity by accurately placing ads relevant to the content. Meaning if you're watching a sports show and you're Nike, you want that ad to be placed near a sports scene, because that is really the audience that you're trying to target. And or if you're Toyota and you are buying ad time on Peacock, you would prefer that that ad is placed near like a Fast and Furious in a car scene, where you're going to get the most monetization from that ad spend. So what we've been partnering with the video AI team, and there was a lot of development that was done relatively quickly to enable what we call contextual tagging. But now we've run through just in the last few months, we've scanned 30,000 episodes that are currently on Peacock to identify the different contextual tagging of that content. So, Faisal and the team were able to add in specific ad tagging that was in alignment with the IAB, which is an industry standard, so that when we're scanning the content, we are tagging it in several tiers. So we'll tag, it's women's fitness and like certain tiers of tagging that then we're passing that along in the metadata. And then we have an integration with FreeWill, which is the dynamic ad insertion software that is used within Peacock to automatically place certain advertisers against those scenes to increase the consumer views in alignment with the advertisers' target audience. And that has enabled a lot of additional revenue for Peacock, because our advertisers are willing to pay more for that functionality, because they'll get more eyeballs against those ads that are relevant to their target audience. So those are just a few of the examples of like current use cases that were actually in production, which has been great for the company, and it's been a great partnership. And I will say some of the things that we're working on as part of future development is around the ability to auto detect and validate languaging. So, my team also supports all of our NBC Universal international networks. And just one example, like we no longer have the Kardashians, but when we did have the Kardashians, it was one of our most watched series. And we would create up to 15 different versions of a Kardashians episode to air globally. So we'd create different versions for our Asian market, different versions for our Latin American market, different versions for our European market, based on those territories, standards and practices. And for each one of those versions, we would localize up to 25 different languages of the Kardashians. So one of our, my operations doesn't speak fluently 25 languages. They're very good at detecting sync and confirming sync. And they're pretty good at understanding the difference between, I would say, Hungary and Spanish, but there is we have had some issues, especially within dialects. So because of the different versions of Spanish or Hungarian Czech are very similar sounding, And that's obviously a very poor consumer experience. If we air the Kardashians with Czech in the Hungarian market or vice versa, or if we do, you know, Castilian Spanish, if we accidentally air that in, you know, Mexico and not in Spain. So we're working with the video AI team to see if we can automate the detection of those languages on ingest so that we can confirm with confidence that what we're ingesting is the actual language that we expect it to be, to minimize those defects within markets. And then the other area that we're focused on is we have started to do some automated captioning. So rather than send content to language vendors to have closed captioning created, we are using some softwares to actually automatically create that closed captioning. But there is a huge opportunity to save money and decrease speed to market on automating subtitles. With the global streaming expansion, we are experiencing much longer lead times with some of our localization vendors to get subtitles and dubs created, which obviously isn't, you know, great for NBC Universal because it delays our ability to get some of our premium content into other markets because we are dependent on, you know, the voice actors and, you know, subtitle creators to create those today. So we are doing some, you know, testing and some POCs on how we can use AI to auto create those subtitles and potentially, or eventually I should say, some dubs as well, so that we can get our content out globally, you know, same day as we're launching in the US. So those are just some of the areas that we're looking to partner with the Comcast team to try to get into production. So hopefully that was helpful and to hear some of the use case that have been successful and some of the things that we're working on to automate in the future. And now I'm going to pass it back to Eden for our Q&A session.
Yeah, Megan, that's great. Actually, Megan, Paul, and Faisal, you know, thanks so much for sharing those insights. I mean, that's a lot to think about. God, I'd like to pick up on just about every point, but I'm going to keep us focused on a couple of panel questions, which I'm moderator, so I can kick off with some questions that I've thought about while we've been doing this. Okay, so one thing I was wondering, I mean, when you've sort of been implementing AI, or when you've been in sort of conversations with other stakeholders about it, have there been any surprises? You know, maybe unexpected use cases, unexpected business results or value. So what has sort of surprised you and sort of been unexpected? And whoever wants to pick up on that, I'm not going to be too school marmish, so pick up as you want.
I guess I could start as you know, product manager for Video AI. A lot of conversations that we have with prospects who are interested in AI and ML and applying it to video. A lot of the conversations start, I think, where Megan's journey started, which is really around how can I save cost, right, on operations? Is there a way I can automate and you know, improve the accuracy and automate something that was highly manual? That's kind of where it starts a lot of times. And then, you know, once the mind starts turning on what the possibilities are of improving the experience and the monetization and the uplift that's possible, which Megan also touched on, then it's almost a different conversation with a different group that you're having. You know, you're talking with the ad sales team, you know, product managers at with content owners and streaming providers who you know, want to maximize monetization, right? So you know, it becomes more of an ROI type of conversation on you know, if does better data drive results? Can better data and actionable metadata drive results for us to the bottom line?
And any other surprises for Megan, Faisal? Anything sort of jumped out that you weren't expecting to see?
Yeah, I think as we were exploring implementing AI and machine learning, I think I was very sensitive of how we message that to my operational team. Because I think there is a lot of concern, or, you know, is my job being replaced, or, will the job exist in 10 years, or how will it evolve? And I think I've been really surprised. I do think we've done a really good job with the messaging and really being explicit as we want to automate the mundane, repeatable tasks so that we can have our subject matter experts focus on the more high profile content and events and things that we want to ensure that we get right. And my team has been very excited and really kind of been appreciative of some of these tasks being automated where they can. It enables them to do more volume. It enables them to do more tasks that require more thought and, critical thinking. So I think that was just a surprise, is how well it was embraced within my team, and how they're excited, and it's to the point where they're even coming up with their own ideas about things that they do every day that they'd rather not do because it could be automated. So I think that's just been a really enjoyable experience to watch my team and my operators kind of evolve into that thinking and that mindset. And it's really kind of opening the door for more partnership and more automation across our supply chain.
Okay, well, it's great to actually have such a positive experience to share. It doesn't always happen with AI. And actually, on that sort of theme, do you have any tips on the sort of first steps, the best steps when it comes to implementing AI in video workflows? And I'm going to try and double up two questions here because we've actually got some really good ones coming in. But so, any tips on the best way to implement AI in video workflows? And then I know this is hard, but then how long does it take to see value from those implementations? So sorry, that's a bit of a nasty one, but hopefully you'll be okay to field it. So I don't know who wants to pick up on that one.
I can start with the how to get into AI and machine learning. One of the things that we find is organizations have a deep database of information. One of the things that's, the lifeblood of data is the lifeblood of AI and machine learning. And organizations tend to have a lot of that data. It tends to be in unstructured, unregulated databases, across different domains. And so one of the things that's really interesting and very important as people want to get into AI and machine learning is to be able to have a very structured way in which you approach data and how you capture some of that data. So for example, in the case of when we worked with Megan and her team, they had a really rich set of data in terms of where the markers were, how they were marking them. For example, something as simple as, does an ad start at the first black frame, or does it start at the end of that black slug that happens? Even things as simple as that is important. And if you have that data and if you're capturing it, if you can harmonize it in an easy way, it makes the job of AI and machine learning a lot easier. Data wrangling, as we call it, just is a very tedious task, and the more you can prepare for it early on, the better it is your adoption of AI and machine learning.
Okay. Any other observations? If not, I'm going to jump in to some of the questions from the audience.
The only thing I would add, sorry, just to your question about how long does it take, I will say patience is required, and it is important because you do want to make sure, and really we track our reliability in media operations, and we have a pretty high standard that, you know, we hold to a 4 nines reliability, which means of 10,000 assets, we can only have one that's detective to maintain that reliability. And so as we were partnering with Faisal and team, we were running those metrics. Basically, we didn't start using the automation until it was at least as good as my operators in doing that task. So, you know, we would track how accurate the segmentation was coming in from video AI compared to my operators. And I will say, I'm so appreciative to Paul and Faisal and the team, because we would also feedback when it wasn't accurate so they could improve the detectors. But it did take some time. But that was by design to ensure that we weren't implementing a defective process within our content factory. So I would just iterate that, like, it does require patience, but eventually it does pay off, and can be highly reliable.
Okay, that's great, Megan. Thank you. I know that's not an easy question to pick up on and answer. Okay, let's jump straight into a couple of questions from the audience, and we're going to have to keep our answers fairly brief because I'd like to get through as much of these as I can. Okay, here's one that I quite like because we've not touched on it. So there's a question: is there a roadmap for the use of augmented reality applications that can make content more interactive and immersive?
On video AI, I'm gonna let Faisal talk about some of the research.
I can talk with you.
As far as, I mean, we've really just we're seeing the tip of the iceberg here, really, of what we can do and the capabilities that we can bring to the table. As Megan was saying, there's lots of great ideas that are coming up from her team, and we're seeing that from all of the other stakeholders that we're working with. And so, having a more engaging, immersive, compelling, sticky, user-driven, user-empowering experience is an outcome that we are actively working toward. On the augmented reality, and specifically relating to augmented reality, I'll hand that one to Faisal.
Sure. So augmented reality works on the basis of understanding the scene, understanding where you are with respect to the objects that are in your scene. And one of the things that AI is really helping to harden and make sure that we get it right is the notion of understanding what's in the scene itself. So, AI can be used to modulate how different augmented reality objects appear on the screen, but more so, I think, currently, AI can really help understand the placement of the scene and how it will place different objects within augmented objects within that natural live scene. So, there's a lot of detectors that can be brought to bear for AR.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some sort of quite nice TV companion apps. Apple did quite a nice one to go with For All Mankind, great series. But there's some sort of developments around AR TV companion apps that are actually synced with the content showing on screen. Early days, but really interesting, provided it's done with a lot of contextual sensitivity and it's not intrusive. So yeah, just wanted to flag that. Oh my God, we're going to go about 1 minute left. I'll tell you what, let's wrap up with just a quick, a 2-word on, and this is for the panel, what do you think is going to be the next big thing? And only sort of 2 or 3 words for that one. Faisal, do you want to kick off on that? Next big thing.
The next big thing, I think, is something a little bit, people are starting to see. It's the use of generative AI. Right now, AI is used to classify and to understand, but AI is starting to look at generative, creating content.
All right.
Again,
so generative AI.
Yep, generative
sorry,
AI.
I'm responding to Yeah, so Megan, any sort of, are you going to put a bet down on the next big thing?
Yeah, I was actually going to say the same. I think we're getting a lot of first party data now that we have our Peacock, we have access to that data. So we're constantly in conversation about how do we use the data of what our consumers are watching to drive the creative process and create more content that is similar to what people are consuming most. And then I will also just reiterate the localization. That's a big cost driver and it's a lot of time. So I would say, you know, fully automating all localization.
Paul, do you know, I'm really sorry, I'm not going to let you get a word in because I'm being sort of I'm being virtually waved that we have to shut things down and we've run over slightly. But great session. Thanks so much for sharing, you know, your experience, applications and insights. And yeah, questions we haven't been able to answer during this session, we'll try and get back to you. So, you know, keep those questions coming in. Big thanks to the panel. Great audience questions. Thank you so much for participating. And yeah, goodbye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.